Commissioners, Chief McDonald, Mr. Sibley, Madam Secretary, Acting Inspector General Florence Yu, Mr. City Attorney Carlos De La Guerra, and members of the public. Today is Tuesday, January 7th, 2025. It is 9:34 a.m. This is a regular meeting of the Los Angeles Board of Police Commissioners. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Good morning. Please let the record reflect Commissioners Suthers, Shields, and Sanchez Gordon are present, and we have a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you. We welcome everyone attending this morning. The Police Commission is committed to ensuring equal access to its meetings. It is requested that individuals who require the services of a translator contact the board secretary no later than the day preceding the meeting. Whenever possible, a translator will be provided. Sign language interpreters, assistive listening devices, or other auxiliary aids and/or services may be provided upon request. To ensure availability, you are advised to make your request at least 72 hours prior to the meeting you wish to attend. All public comment will be heard during item number 2 on the agenda. We will dedicate a total of 45 minutes to public comment. Members of the public will have 1 minute per agenda item for a maximum of 2 minutes total. At the request of the speaker will be given 1 additional minute for general public comment for a maximum of 3 minutes total. The order of speakers will be: a speaker in this room will go first, then we will take a speaker watching today's meeting on Zoom. We will alternate between speakers in the room and Zoom for a total of 45 minutes. Members of the public who participate in public comment are reminded they can speak to any item on the agenda or a matter within the jurisdiction of the Board of Police Commissioners. Public comment is your opportunity to address the board, so you are free to express your opinion on matters before the board and to generally express when you disagree with the other opinions expressed. However, directing your comments to other individuals who have spoken or attacking others who have expressed their opinions shall be deemed off topic, and your public comment period will be concluded. Members of the public, if you choose to participate in the public comment portion of the agenda, you can participate in this meeting in a number of ways outlined on the agenda. Message for those attending the meeting in person. These meetings are regular meetings between the board, the department, and key stakeholders. Meetings of the Board of Police Commissioners are open to the public. The state's Ralph M. Brown Act affords the public the opportunity to be present at the meetings, hear the presentations and dialogue in real time, and provide feedback via the public comment period. During these meetings, there is a need for the board to carry out public business expeditiously without delays or disruptions. Members of the audience shall not engage in any conduct which causes an actual disruption of the meeting. Those attending in person are reminded that disruptive behavior will be cause for removal. If you disrupt this meeting, you will be provided with only 1 warning to cease disruptive behavior. If you fail to cease such behavior, you will be removed from the meeting. All attendees must be seated. Failure to follow this rule will result in a warning and/or removal from the meeting. Before we move to the agenda, I'd like to recognize and welcome our newest commissioner, Teresa Sanchez Gordon. Commissioner Sanchez Gordon is a retired judge from the Los Angeles Superior Court. She was elected and presided for 21 years before retiring in 2017. Commissioner Sanchez Gordon was born in Mexico and raised in East Los Angeles. Prior to her time as a judge, she worked as a school teacher with the Los Angeles Unified School District and a federal public defender at the United States Courthouse Central District. Commissioner Sanchez Gordon, welcome to the commission. I'll give you the floor if you'd like to say a few words.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Again, we welcome you, looking forward to your wisdom and your insight. Before we move on to item number 1, I just want to mention that closed session number 00624 will not be heard during closed session today. Will be moved to a future meeting. With that, we will move to item number 1, the report of the Chief of Police, Chief McDonald.
Good morning, President Suthers, Vice President Shields, Commissioners, Acting Inspector General Yu, and City Attorney De La Guerra, and Mr. Sibley. Today I will be discussing significant events from the previous 3 weeks, providing a crime update and discussing our personnel strength. I want to take a moment to acknowledge the recent tragic events in New Orleans and Las Vegas during the New Year holiday. These incidents are a sobering reminder that acts of terrorism can happen anywhere without warning. As a department, we remain committed to training and preparing for such situations. We want to reassure the public that we're doing everything in our power to keep Los Angeles safe. We're closely working with our partner agencies to understand the circumstances surrounding these tragedies. The insights we gain will help us to improve our training and readiness to prevent similar incidents here in Los Angeles. Looking ahead, our city will host several major events, including the 2028 Olympic and Paralympic Games, and we're actively building a comprehensive safety plan to ensure these events are safe for everyone and successful. During the previous 3 weeks, we've had 3 officer-involved shootings that I will discuss briefly below. First incident is an officer-involved shooting in Southeast Division on December 26th. At approximately 1840 hours, Southeast Area Uniformed Gang Enforcement Detail officers were conducting a crime suppression activity in the area of Hooper and 92nd Street. While patrolling, they observed a male later identified as the subject, David R., vandalizing a wall on the southeast corner of the intersection. In response, the officers stopped their police vehicle to investigate. Immediately thereafter, a second male, later identified as a subject, Sergio F., who was standing adjacent to David R., produced a handgun and fired at the officers. Both officers quickly got out of their vehicle and returned fire, resulting in an officer-involved shooting. The subjects immediately entered an awaiting vehicle and sped away, prompting additional responding officers to pursue them. The pursuit ended when the suspect vehicle voluntarily stopped in the city of Compton, where the driver, later identified as Kevin Diaz, and 2 subjects were taken into custody without further incident. Upon immediate examination, officers noted one of the subjects, Sergio F., had sustained injuries from gunfire. They provided medical aid until Compton Fire Department personnel arrived. Once Compton Fire Department took over care, Sergio F. was transported to a local hospital where he was treated for a single gunshot wound and listed in critical condition. Diaz and David R. were not injured and subsequently arrested and booked. No officers or other community members were injured during this incident, and a loaded .45 caliber handgun with no identifiable markings and a shotgun shell casing were recovered from inside the vehicle. Force Investigation Division investigators responded to the scene and are further investigating this incident. The second officer-involved shooting in Southeast as well occurred within 2 days. On December 28th at approximately 2023 hours, 2 victims were standing on the north sidewalk in front of the Macedonia Baptist Church located at 1751 East 114th Street. The suspect, later identified as Kevin Doby, approached the victims, produced an AK-style rifle, and demanded their property. As Doby attempted to rob the victims at gunpoint, the victims charged him, taking Doby to the ground. As the victims and the suspect struggled over the control of the gun, Southeast Patrol Division uniformed officers were conducting regular patrol in the area and observed the group fighting. Officers deployed from their vehicle approached the group, and as they did, one of the victims yelled, "He's got a gun," multiple times. Officers broadcast a backup request and gave numerous verbal orders to drop the gun. As the victim continued to struggle with Doby, they attempted to break away, and an officer-involved shooting occurred. Doby rearmed himself with the rifle and began to run west on the north sidewalk of 114th Street when a second officer-involved shooting occurred. During the incident, the suspect was struck by gunfire and dropped the rifle underneath a nearby parked car. Officers redeployed, and after backup units arrived, took the suspect into custody without further incident. It was later determined that the victims were also struck by gunfire. Victim 1 sustained a gunshot wound to his right forearm, and victim 2 sustained a gunshot wound to his left wrist. The suspect sustained 2 gunshot wounds to his left leg and a grazed wound to his back. All parties were transported to separate local hospitals and listed in stable condition. Doby was placed under arrest for 211 PC armed robbery, a loaded black and brown AK-style rifle with a detachable magazine and 14 rounds of ammunition, and a 3-inch black folding knife were located and collected as evidence. Again, Force Investigation Division responded to the scene and are continuing to investigate this incident. And the third officer-involved shooting occurred on December 29th at about 22:15 hours in Topanga Division. Topanga uniformed officers responded to a radio call of a vandalism suspect in a hotel located at 21706 Ventura Boulevard. While the officers were en route, the person reporting advised Communications Division the suspect was now holding a gun. Upon arrival, officers encountered the suspect, later identified as Benjamin Bradley Prince, walking in the driveway toward the street. Prince produced 2 firearms and fired at officers, resulting in an officer-involved shooting. Prince momentarily retreated toward a parked vehicle, but quickly returned fire with 1 firearm, fired again as the officers continued to return fire. Prince fled back into the hotel, and officers immediately established a perimeter around the building and requested the assistance of Metropolitan Division Special Weapons and Tactics. After Prince refused to surrender, SWAT element members, along with the Tactical Emergency Medical Support Unit from the Los Angeles Fire Department, entered the hotel and located Prince at the bottom of a stairwell. Prince had sustained gunshot wounds, and personnel from the Thames unit immediately assessed and determined that he was deceased at scene. No officers or community members were injured as a result of the incident, and Force Investigation Division investigators responded to the scene or continued to investigate this event as well. During the investigation, a Harpoon double-barrel shot air pistol located with an air cartridge in each barrel was located at the scene, along with an air rifle which was loaded with 7 rounds in the chamber. Both weapons were capable of firing metallic rounds of ammunition and were recovered and booked as evidence. We concluded 2024 with 29 officer-involved shootings, which was a 14.7% decrease compared to 34 incidents recorded in 2023. As we begin 2025, there have been no officer-involved shootings or categorical uses of force reported so far this year. Another incident of significance, and that was newsworthy as well, was an incident on December 30th at approximately 8:52 p.m. Los Angeles police officers responded to a shooting at a shopping plaza in the 700 block of South Figueroa Street. During the incident, 2 security guards were shot while confronting a shoplifting suspect. Despite their injuries, one of the guards was able to return fire. The suspect was not struck and fled the scene, taking approximately $1,600 worth of stolen merchandise. Both victims were transported to the hospital for treatment. Early the following morning on December 31st, Central Area Robbery detectives began their investigation. Surveillance footage from the store provided clear images of the suspect, which were quickly distributed to the public through our Media Relations Division. Thanks to the swift circulation of this information, a community member came forward with a tip identifying the suspect and providing his residence, located less than a mile from the crime scene. Detectives confirmed the suspect's identity and his location. Officers responded to the residence and attempted to call the suspect out, but he refused to comply. Special Weapons and Tactics, our SWAT team, and the Crisis Negotiation Team were deployed to the scene, making numerous attempts to establish communication and secure a peaceful surrender. When negotiations reached an impasse, a Garner warning was issued and chemical agent was deployed at the location. And after a standoff lasting approximately 4 hours, the suspect left the residence and was taken into custody without further incident. A search of the residence yielded a firearm believed to have been used in the incident and items connected to the robbery. The suspect has been charged by the district attorney for attempted murder. I want to take this opportunity to commend the professionalism and dedication of our officers, detectives, and specialized teams. I also extend my gratitude to the community for their critical role in providing timely information. Together, we were able to remove a dangerous individual from our streets in less than 24 hours. Another burglary crew arrest, I think, of significance since October. Officers from Metropolitan Division B Platoon have been investigating a burglary crew linked to the Rolling 60s street gang. This crew is believed to be responsible for more than 15 burglaries in the San Fernando Valley, with prior incidents reported in Devonshire and Foothill divisions. Using advanced tracking technology and surveillance, officers monitored the suspect's movements, and on December 17th, officers were alerted to the suspect movement in Foothill division. With assistance from air support and undercover officers, 3 suspects were located and apprehended after a short pursuit that ended in Northeast Division. The suspects were arrested for burglary, receiving stolen property, gloves, and radios tuned to police frequencies were recovered from their vehicles. A subsequent search of the suspect's residence led to the recovery of 4 firearms, a shotgun, cash, and clothing linked to the crimes. 2 additional suspects remain at large, and officers are actively working to locate them. An additional incident here involving a bicycle and bicyclists, I think of note. I want to address the recent incident in the Mid-City area involving a Mercedes-Benz and multiple cyclists. This situation also included a related altercation in which the driver of the vehicle was assaulted by several individuals and the vehicle itself was vandalized. Our detectives have a detailed report on file and are actively investigating both aspects of the case. At this time, efforts are focused on collecting additional evidence and identifying the individuals involved. We understand the community's concerns regarding incidents like this, and I want to assure you that we're committed to conducting a thorough investigation to ensure accountability and justice. As the case progresses, we'll provide updates as appropriate. Looking at the crime picture now, this is for the week ending January 4th. Over the past 4 weeks, from December 8th to January 4th, combined persons and property crimes has decreased 14.6%. This includes a 17.7% drop in property crimes and a 1.5% decrease in persons crimes. Homicides citywide have significantly decreased overall, with a 100% reduction year-to-date compared to both 2023 and 2024. However, in the most recent 4-week period, homicides increased by 33%, with 16 incidents reported compared to the prior 4 weeks. While this uptick is concerning, the year-over-year decline highlights the progress in reducing homicides. Victims shot citywide has also decreased by 33% year-to-date compared to 2024. Aggravated assaults saw a slight decrease of 0.4% over the last 4 weeks. Despite this, specific divisions such as Hollenbeck, Wilshire, and Olympic reported notable increases. These areas are under close review and resources are being deployed as necessary. Robberies citywide declined by 2.1% during the same period. Burglaries, on the other hand, have risen by over 10% over the last 4 weeks, with residential burglaries increasing over 11% and non-residential burglaries by 8.6%. Divisions experiencing the largest increases include West LA, Hollywood, North Hollywood, Foothill, and Central. At this time, no significant trends or patterns have been identified, but detectives are actively working to identify suspects and address these crimes. Meanwhile, motor vehicle thefts have decreased by over 11% overall. On the personnel front, our personnel strength as of January 6th, sworn personnel, we are currently at 8,795, and our civilian staffing is at 2,678. And that concludes my presentation this morning. Open to any questions you might have, Commissioners.
Thank you, Chief. First, I'd like to start with you mentioning the events that happened on New Year's Eve across the country, New Orleans and Las Vegas, and just a reminder that they can and do happen as we have significant dates and events coming up. I appreciate your reminder regarding the World Cup next year and the Olympics 2 years later and all of the things in between. So thank you for your constant vigilance on focusing on those kinds of incidents. On December 30th at Figueroa and 7th Street, really appreciate the swift response of the department, you having the information shared with the community and the community's input in helping to bring that to a resolution without further incident. That was a really good use of our community relations and media department, as well as the community's response in helping us find that person and not having any further incidents happen. So again, just thank you for doing that. I don't have any other comments or questions. I'm going to yield to Commissioner Shields for comments or questions.
Thank you. And I had some of the same comments as Commissioner Suthers, so I'll skip those. But thank you for the report. I did have, some concerns about, although on a whole last year there was a 14.75% decrease of officer-involved shootings, that there was a lot of violence within the last, week before the holidays or right before the new year. I had a specific question about the second officer-involved shooting, and you mentioned that there were some victims that also sustained gunshot wounds at this time. I understand the investigation's ongoing at this time. Do you know whether those gunshots came from the suspect or from the officers?
Now, likely from the officers. The two victims are on the ground wrestling with the suspect over a rifle. The officers are trying to get the victims to move away. The suspect turned the rifle toward the officers. The officers responded. The victims were still in the line of fire at that point, but the suspect was hit during that exchange. The wounds they received, one was a graze wound, the other was a penetrating wound, but both been treated and released.
And that whole situation will come before the commission at a later time.
Absolutely.
For us to evaluate basically every time the trigger was pulled, that is going to be something we decide whether it was in policy or out of policy.
Yes, and yesterday we held a 72-hour briefing on that, and that's a point where we determine whether the officers go back into the field, what their needs are, whether there are any identified training issues, equipment issues, tactical issues, to be able to ensure that we learn in an immediate sense and be able to correct something quickly, should we find that.
Wonderful. Thank you. Okay, and I think that was me. I did also want to acknowledge that there was a death of a police officer right before the new year as well, and I want to send my condolences to the entire department
Thank you.
and to their family members.
Thank you very much, Commissioner.
Thank you. Commissioner Sanchez-Gordon, any comments or questions?
No comments, thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll now move on to item number 2 on the agenda, public comment period. Madam Secretary, please announce the first speaker.
The first speaker is Tyson Sheedy.
Good morning. So Chief, I remember one of the first interview you did with Fox News. I remember you said one of your priority is to increase the morale within the LAPD. You said, I think, you said LAPD morale is like historically low, and you want to increase that. I agree with that 100%. I support that. However, I want to make sure that you are also aware. I feel the member of the public, they also have a more low morale. So in the member of the public, sometimes I interact with my neighbors, they lost a bicycle. Oh, I'm not gonna call the LAPD, waste of time. They don't do anything. Sometimes their car, let's just say they have they got a flat tire the moment they wake up in the morning, they got a window, their mirror got smashed. And I said, why don't you file a police report with LAPD? And then the morale of the public, oh, I'm not gonna do that. It's a waste of time. They don't do anything. So I support you to increase the officer morale, so officer trust you, come to you asking for support. But I also wish that let's make member of the public have more morale, so everybody come forward, report the crime, because otherwise tomorrow I got beat up on the metro train. I'm not gonna file a police report. They don't do anything. That's pretty bad. So increase the officer morale, at the same time increase the public morale. So number one. Second is a small feedback for the transit metro officer on the LAPD metro. I was detained approximately 15 minutes. They did a tap card checkpoint or something like that. They check everybody if you have a tap card. For me, I'm a student. My student ID is my tap card. My tap card is my student ID. So it's 2-in-1 card system. And then the officer seems like is very unknowledgeable that when they ask me, what's your tap card? Which is I don't have one because my student ID is my tap card. So it takes them 15 minutes to figure it out. And then, it's not a pleasant conversation. I wish, in the future, instead of telling me, I don't need your student ID, I need your tap card now. I wish, we can have a professional, easier, more peaceful, more courteous conversation other than just yelling, I don't need your ID, I need your tap card now. Something like that. So, just be aware, certain college universities, their student ID, tap card is 2 card in 1 system. Let's make sure everybody understand that, because I'm not gonna file a complaint, email the chief, email the captain. I'm not gonna do any of that, but I do feel there are some certain knowledge and experience, the professionalism can be improved to provide better services on LAPD metro train, metro bus. Thank you.
Next, we have Andrew Graebner.
All right. All items.
3 minutes.
All right. So starting off with the chief's report, the chief's report should be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes at every meeting. If the chief's report exceeds 3 minutes, we should be able to match the amount of time the chief takes. Regardless of how long the chief takes, everyone should be able to speak both in person and on the phone. So I noticed that the chief is continuing to omit important detail about that incident from a few weeks ago. So I was wondering if you could clarify for the public record and such, when the victims were shot in that incident, where the cops shot like the armed robbery or something, the victims were shot. Could you clarify who shot the victims? Would you be willing to do that on for the public record here? 'Cause you still haven't clarified that. So who shot the victims? Was it the LAPD officers? Did the LAPD shoot the victims? Because that's what it sounds like happened. Sounds like the LAPD officers shot the victims. So that's really interesting what the LAPD is doing. People safe, aren't they? All right, let's move on to the consent agenda. We have some of the stuff. I don't even know what you're getting here. Like just random tools that are just completely weird and such. Donations for the teenage indoctrination program where the LAPD tries to get teenagers to become cops while sexually assaulting them. We have, let's see, there's just so many different donations here. It looks like McDonald's taking a vacation again. You have a police dog. You're not clarifying where that place is. Is it the kennel named after Hitler's bunker? So that's usually where you get the dog, is this a kennel named after Hitler's bunker, a bunker that he hid out in to avoid capture at the end of World War II. So I assume that's where you're getting the dog again. So that's usually where you get the dog. It's that kennel named after Hitler's bunker. So you have donations for the Desert Death Run, pass out and have to go to the hospital on taxpayer dollars. You have college scholarships for kids of LAPD officers. So I guess if you're a kid of an LAPD officer, you get free college. Everyone must go into debt for until into their 50s to go to college. Yeah. So, but yeah, man, it's just just more option. I'm sure the new commissioners could be just more of the same here. So, yeah.
The next speaker is Audit LA.
Good morning. I want to talk about two things. First, there was yet another swatting of anti-Scientology peaceful protesters, people who are concerned about the human trafficking, senior and child abusing cult of Scientology. They are peaceful, but yet they keep getting swatted at gunpoint. This time it was the one person who's been here before who's been swatted, I think 7 times, 8 times now, gun pointed to his head, and a 17-year-old youth. They were not even there, but they get swatted because anytime they're seen, they're on TV, on streaming, whatever, they get swatted. We know that Scientology or their people, their affiliates, whatever, have a lot to do with it, and we've been begging for help to get to the bottom of it. I am just so glad that today that the chief's report didn't include a 17-year-old, minor reaching for his phone to call his mom, didn't get shot because an officer thinking that he's reaching for a gun. That could have been the story today. That could have been on the chief's list because no one's doing anything to find who is calling on people. I know Scientology doesn't want to be protested. I know Scientology comes to you, like Janet Wieland and all these, people there on their CPABs. They shouldn't be on your CPABs, telling you that the protesters are dangerous and we're criminals and violent. That is a lie. All the violence is coming from the other side. And it's not fair. And they have all this power, they have all this money, and all we have is our voices. And I also want to mention another person who, would love to have been here today but can't. She called the police, and they treated her so poorly because she was protesting there. Okay, now this is somebody who was trafficked and raised and abused by this cult, sexually abused in every manner, left, and now she can't even say hi to her parents because they're in it, and and they're not allowed to talk to her. They have to disconnect. Okay, and she called for help, and the police, because they're so poisoned, your minds are so poisoned, because all you have is Janet Wieland on your CPABs telling you about how horrible we are, and then, so they're treated horribly. She was in tears because somebody slashed 4 tires of her van. and she was treated horribly. This is a victim on two different levels, you know, of the cult and of, you know, of the cult, because they're the ones slashing the tires. These are not random people coming and slashing the tires of a protester. These are not random people calling swattings on 17-year-old kids. It's, you know, these are people who are either Scientology, and we've heard their voices. It's Scientology doing it, or people affiliated, because they also hire people to fair game people. I'm being fair gamed. Every other protester is being fair gamed. And I'm like, I push through any fear because, you know, I'm not going to let them shut me up just because, you know, they want me to go away. But I'm going to keep coming here and begging, and I'm asking the chief and the commissioner, I'm trying to get a meeting, because the woman who had her tires slashed, who was mistreated, wants to speak to you guys. I want you to talk to real victims of Scientology.
Can I ask the Inspector General's office to potentially get the name of that person and reach out to them?
Ma'am, we have a gentleman over
Thank
there in the back who can help you with that information.
He wants to talk to the, like, after all the public speaking,
Mhm.
doesn't really want to speak, but he wants to talk to investigators too about it personally.
Sure, absolutely. And you have our contact information, so you know how to reach us.
I do, yeah, I contact you often, but yeah, he wants to.
Okay, absolutely. Thank you. So he'll be reaching.
Thank you.
Okay.
Next, we have Betty Lay.
Good morning.
Good morning. What items would you like to speak on?
Chief's report, agenda items, public comment.
Okay, 3 minutes.
First off, I want to let the chief know that I truly appreciate his report and I support all the donation items on the agenda. A lot of people don't realize what the city pays for and doesn't pay for and why these donations are needed. Also, for public comment, apparently there's people out there with way too much time on their hands posting stuff on Instagram, Nextdoor, other websites with incorrect information about LAPD officers. Get your information straight, stay off those sites, and we need to support LAPD. Happy New Year, stay safe and healthy. I yield the rest of my time.
The next speaker, Lee Jamieson. Okay. William Good.
Good morning. I want to speak on all items.
Thank you.
So first off, let's just be clear. You guys shot 2 innocent people. They were victims of a crime. Guys showed up and shot them. Let's make that clear. All right? You can use all your Orwellian talk. That's what happened. But I digress. So you guys are having a terrible time recruiting. If I heard correctly, your staffing is about 8,700 and something. And, you know, I was at a CPAB meeting in Hollywood a few weeks ago, and the captain there was blaming their recruiting problems on the media. It's the media's fault. It's the media's fault. And they hired this dinosaur to fix it. And let me tell you something. You know, your problem has nothing to do with the media. You can blame it as much as you want. Half of the population, 52% of the population are women. But 20-something% of the LAPD are women. You have a woman problem. And why do you have that? So I'm not here to try to help you guys out, but let's go over why you are having these staffing levels. The way your department abuses women. That's right. The women in your department come to me and ask for help. Why are they coming to me? It's not my job, it's your job. Now we have this guy in the Mission Division. His name is Philip Ruiz. And you guys, a lady came to the LAPD, and said, this guy is abusing me. He pulled me by the hair off the bed and by my arm. And when I broke up with him, he stalked me. And he broke into my job and went through my Rolodex to get information. And then when I went out with my new boyfriend, he followed us to the venue. When I went to the bathroom, he pulled me to the side and grabbed me by my crotch. That's a crime. That's a crime. And what did the LAPD do? The LAPD investigated it, and they kept him on the force, even though I found new documents last week that he had been suspended before for abusing the same woman. The LAPD said, we are not going to fire him because since it happened against the same woman, it doesn't constitute a pattern. That's you guys. And so you wonder why women do not want to join the LAPD. Then you have Lillian Carranza. She went to the chief, the last chief, and said, you know what, I'm being sexually harassed. And he said, I'm not going to speak out against it. Why? Because I don't want it going viral. And then she went to court, won $4 million because of that. $4 million. We paid $11 million in settlements since 2019 because of these issues. I filed a complaint against Chief Moore. And what did these guys do on the commission? They said it was unfounded. We went to court. We had to pay money because of him. And they said it's unfounded. And it's enough. They don't hold the cops accountable. We can hold them accountable. All these people work in the private sector. Call their boards. Call their contractors and their clients. And
Thank you.
If this is
Thank you.
respect of the people,
Thank you.
hold cops accountable.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Same for all of you. All of you.
Next, we have Steve Riley.
Good morning.
Good morning. What items would you like to speak on?
All items, please.
Okay, 3 minutes.
First, I'd like to wish everyone a happy new year. I wish that all the officers remain safe and the entire public be safe. I'm going to start with a prayer and a pledge. This prayer is a St. Michael prayer, the patron saint of police officers. St. Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray. And do thou, O Prince of the heavenly host, by the power of God, thrust into hell
Sir,
Satan.
your comments are off topic. Please speak to items on the agenda or
Sir,
items
this is
before
a
the
prayer
Board
for
of Police
police officers.
Commissioners.
You're interrupting a prayer for police officers' safety.
Sir, this is the
proud
Board of
of the
Police
world,
Commissioners
ruin of
meeting,
souls.
and we have an agenda. You can speak to agenda items or items.
That
come
is my
before
public
us.
comment, sir. Am I not allowed to pray during public comment for police officers' safety? St. Michael is the patron saint of police officers. I think that is on topic and relevant, especially beginning in the new year. So, thank you for interrupting my prayer. May I say the Pledge of Allegiance, or is that off topic also? What is on topic is you should be doing your job. And there have been many times when I've seen people interrupt the meeting and you do not do your job, President Southers. I'm talking to you. And you have the gall to interrupt me while I'm saying a prayer for police officers' safety in the beginning of the new year? Reflect. Reflect. There's much to say. I suggest that you take a look at the letter that was written by the Voices for LAPD. I am one of the members that collaborated on that. I am a positive force for policing, for community policing, and which is more than what I can say for the police commission at times. And we try to work as partners. As a resident of Los Angeles, I have concerns. We've brought up these concerns over the last year, both verbally and in writing. We expect them to be addressed. This department has a new chief, Chief McDonald. Great report, Chief, by the way. I think morale is going to improve because a lot of people in the department who I talk to have confidence in Chief McDonald. And those are your best recruiters, the officers themselves. Now, if you look at NYPD and what's going on there, I suggest you take a look and see the scandal, the overtime, sex for overtime scandal that's going on over there. So you need a man of good morality and is greatly respected. That will improve. You only had 21 recruits graduate. You need to do something to improve the recruitment and retention and stop interrupting people. Thank you.
The next speaker, Jonathan Foster.
Hello, I'm Jonathan Foster. I support the police 100%. I think they do 98% excellent service, and there's this 2% that's gross, and it's really gross. And that's all I'm going to talk about because it's gross. And I just wanted to say Phil Lesh did pass away, a great man for humanity. So last time I was here, Chief, I talked about Sonia Massey. She was shot by this officer. It was in Ohio. It's not here, but they also shot Takar Smith because they were holding something over their head. And what I forgot last time, which is so very important, is Officer Grayson had a dishonorable discharge from the military, Chief. He had a dishonorable discharge. Nobody should hire a police officer that was dishonorably discharged from the military. On November 26th, 24, that meeting has 4,000 views. I don't understand why. So many things I'm not going to be able to get to, and I'm going to talk about, though, Jose Espinoza, who's rotting in jail, and the money we're spending on him. It's not going to a homeless female who's homeless. It's going to Jose Espinoza, who's a criminal, illegal alien. And so I wanted to ask Mother Teresa about the 57-year-old Debrina Kawam, who was set on fire in New York City subway. So all you people that are the California Values Act, we don't need a border, let everybody stay here, should be set on fire. Everybody that says keep the border open, you need to be set on fire. Everybody that passed a California Values Act and says that an illegal alien should stay here, like one of the callers, his uncle, yeah, you need to be set on fire. This was a very nice lady. She was homeless. And we're spending money on Jose Espinoza. And now the creep that set her on fire, we're going to pay for him. It's not going to the female that was actually homeless. And people think that I'm a creep. Rasha thinks I'm a creep. Yet I would have this money going to homeless females. Gersario Mack was on the ground. He was shot. And Soberov says it was in policy, but that's out of policy. And this judge needs to look at what Eileen did and swept this under the rug. If you're worth anything, because I know you're dead, just like those people over there. They're dead over there. You're dead here, too. Errol, you're dead, too. You haven't looked out for Jamil Shaw Jr. or the Jamil Shaw Sr. family. You're dead, too, just like he's dead. Sancho Tina, he's dead.
Thank you.
Next, we have Gigi.
Hi, can you hear me?
Hi, yes. What items would you like to speak on?
All items.
Okay, 3 minutes.
Okay, so first I want to start by giving a bit more context to what Audit LA was saying about that lady the other day. Not only were her tires slashed, all of her locks on her van were filled with some type of glue, making it impossible to even get into her vehicle. Also, it was in front of her house. She had walked to the blue building of Scientology to protest, and meanwhile, while she was protesting, they decided to do this to her at her house as probably a way to be like, look, we know where you live. It's intimidation, all that stuff. She called the police, and it took several hours before she called them back, and she was told that they already came by, even though her and other people were outside waiting, and they did not come by. And I don't know if they ever did show up, but they kept saying, we can't send an officer out. We can't send an officer out for vandalism. That wasn't vandalism. That's like intimidation. And I don't know the technical terms, but that's totally above vandalism. Also about the swatting situation. Okay, you talked about all these people that were killed. Well, like Audit said, a 17-year-old boy could have been killed on Thursday in, I think, Olympic division. He was scared to death. I heard him panicking. He had a phone on his lap, and he kept telling them that he's a minor. He kept asking if he could take the phone off his lap. And we all know what would have happened if he would have reached for that phone. And these, I don't know if it's Scientology or who it is, but whoever's doing this to the protesters of Scientology, they need to be looked into. Detective Gomez needs to be taken off of this case. And I hope that you can put someone on this case that is not biased on either side to look at this, because I don't trust that she's actually doing her job. but the swattings need to be taken care of. You need to look into them or pass them on to the FBI. Do something, because a 17-year-old almost died for no reason. And that's not the first time that he had a gun pointed at his head. I yield my time.
The next speaker, Hassan Tran.
I hope you give me the extra minute talk today, 2 minutes. Then very important. Okay. Then good morning, police chief and everybody here. And today is January 7, 2025. I'm talking about the election President Donald Trump. The job for President United States of America to protect USA and all American people right and safety. When Mr. Donald Trump become the President United States of America with the Chief Judge Supreme Court John Roberts, Donald Trump put one hand on the Holy Bible and another hand he raised up. He swear liar very seriously to God and all American people. Donald Trump protect big worldwide corporation, corrupt system, control USA. They benefit for Donald Trump and they support Donald Trump. Donald Trump running for president. His money doesn't care all American people, rich or poor.
Sir, this subject is off topic. It is not a matter before the board.
I know, but it's very important to the safety for all American
It is
people. I
not a
understand.
matter that will be heard by the Board of Police Commissioners.
Huh?
Please address an issue that is on topic that we can respond to. Thank you.
I'm okay talking or no? Okay. So this system broken, they doing all kind of dumb and wrong to lie, danger to all American people, killing American people everywhere, killing veteran, U.S. military. We are a victim. They kill American people.
Sir, this is not a topic that can be addressed by the Board of Police Commissioners.
Okay, all right, thank you. So I hope he will stop for president and good for all American people and safety for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, next we have Mirjam.
I want to speak on all items.
Okay, 3 minutes.
Yes. I'd like to start by expressing my surprisement on the decision to outsource the investigation of the dozens of swatting incidents targeting protesters of the cult of Scientology, particularly those involving a person going by pseudonym DOA. It is refreshing to see the issue finally receive the attention it deserves, though apparently not from LAPD itself. It's unfortunate that 2 days ago, while DOA was in Washington, yet another swatting incident occurred, once again endangering lives and wasting precious resources. Now the case has been elevated to the Department of Homeland Security and the Metropolitan Office Department's Office of Intelligence. Perhaps we should be grateful. After all, it seems resolving this serious and ongoing criminality is beyond the LAPD's reach. But let me ask this. How is it that a city the size of Los Angeles, with all its resources, is unwilling to address what has now become a matter of national security? The people targeted by these swatting incidents deserve to feel safe, and they deserve to know their local law enforcement has their back. Instead, you've allowed this issue to escalate to federal agencies, leaving a trail of unanswered questions and a continuous threat to the community. So while I acknowledge the commendable work being done by Homeland Security and the Office of Intelligence, I have to ask, when will LAPD start doing its job? When will you take the action to protect innocent people from being terrorized? Or is outsourcing solutions now the standard operating procedure for issues you'd rather avoid? That's all.
The next speaker, Hamid Khan.
So, Errol Southers just now silenced the previous speaker saying that the subject was off topic. And it makes you wonder that what the fuck is on topic then? Because how many years we've been coming here for the last 20 years and we've been bringing them facts and figures and everything that that this is how people are being targeted. This is what Operation Laser does. This is what Pret Pol's fuckery is. This is what suspicious activity reporting has done, and on and on and on. So what subject would make sense to you, Errol Southers, where you will take real action? Huh? So let's take something, for example. So there was a report in the LA Times on January 3rd about LAPD stats and statistics, right? And they talked about Estes robberies and old court cases and all of that stuff. So now, if that is going to be on topic, so let me ask you, what all have you done? Because there's a long history of LAPD misclassifying statistics. 25,000, over 25,000 of them just about 7-8 years ago. Yeah, you weren't there, but this is just what the institution is built for, as shock absorbers for the system. Then you had body cameras turned off. Then you had young kids being placed in as gang members wrongfully. Then you have wrongful, just planting of evidence, and on and on and on. And then we bring you all those statistics and more. And McDonald's, the first thing he talked about in New Orleans was, again, see something, say something. Well, let's talk about that. What has that produced? What has that stopped? For the last 30 years, we've been seeing this national security police state, intelligence gathering, data collection, and we're seeing that again. What have license plate readers done? Instead, wrongfully gone after black and brown people, instead providing information to immigration and customs enforcement. So what topic do you want us to talk about? What actions do you take? Let's talk about providing alternatives to hinder extremism. Have you heard of that program at all? Do you even know what that is? Do you even know that what's that doing to our young people? Do you even know that how their behavior is being pathologized and young people are being in schools, are being criminalized? Do you even know that counselors are being recruited? Do you even know that principals are being recruited to report on youth just because it's about behavioral surveillance? What topic do you want us to bring to you, to your attention? I want to hear that. Let's talk about the expansion of the architecture of surveillance. Let's talk about stingrays. Let's talk about digital receiver technologies. Let's talk about drones. Let's talk about mass surveillance. What topic? What topic should have an impact? What do you do about it? Is there any answer? Is there any answer? Because if somebody comes up here and talks about something and you say you're off topic, well, what else do you want to hear? Because you're doing nothing. You're just a rubber stamp body and a shock absorber for the system. And that's what we're going to do, keep on exposing and disrupting you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Matios Kadan.
Okay, my name is Matias Kidana with the Stop LAPD Spying Coalition, and I realize this might be folks' first meeting, and one of the guiding principles we have at the Stop LAPD Spying Coalition is that this is not a moment in time, but a continuation of history, and it's in that framing that I want to address the Board of Police Commissioners and their function. Started about a century ago in the 1920s in response to kind of police controversy, and was supposed to, in name, provide oversight and kind of settle these issues. But since then, there have been outside bodies, outside commissions that have had to deal with controversy after controversy, scandal after scandal that continues to go on. And when we want to talk about the real function of this commission, we can just look at the agenda, where there are these seemingly benign donations. And there's one for a canine donation. And it's interesting, whenever there are donations, the vendors are named. In this donation, the vendor isn't named. And so one has to wonder, every canine donation so far has come from Adlerhorst, as a previous caller brought up, a kennel named after Hitler's bunker. And so is this dog from Adlerhorst as well? And it begs the question, why isn't that named? And so just to kind of bring us back to some history about LAPD and their relationship with canines, I want to cite a February 1992 LA Times article that highlights how images were being circulated of people mauled by LAPD dogs. And there was actually a civil suit filed, and the complaint read, Hundreds of people, particularly African Americans and Latinos, have been viciously mauled and, grievously injured by police dogs without probable cause. The article even cites, an ER doctor that compared the bites to wounds similar to a gunshot victim. So this is the kind of tradition of LAPD dogs and how they practice. And then we had in November of 1997 another LA Times article that brought up Adlerhorst, the kennel that LAPD gets their dogs from. And the article is titled "Riverside Kennel in Focus of Controversy Over Police Dog Bite." And the article primarily talks about the 1990 mauling of Charles Dennis. And I want to just read the opening line of the article where it says, "Half his nose was gone, a deep gash stretched from his lower lip to his ear, a piece of skin flapped on his cheek." This is the history of LAPD dogs. This is the violence that they're kind of inextricably tied to. And, last year, there were plenty of articles over the controversy over the name of this kennel specifically, that it somehow suggested, ties to white supremacy and white supremacist violence, right? And so was the solution to end this violence? Is that what the commission did? No, they sanitized it. They just erased the name from the agenda. That's the tactic of this commission. That's what they do. And so today, we have a multi-ethnic Board of Police Commissioners signing off on the donation of a dog from a kennel named after Hitler's bunker and the tradition of slave catchers that use hounds to catch black people. I yield the rest of my time. Thank you.
The next speaker, Minister Ms. Kelly Clift.
Let's see what you do about that topic about Hitler's dogs.
Good morning. I'd like to address the issue of Police Station 251 East 6th Street, zip code 914. I am a Christian minister, born female, and short Spanish police officers, female police officers, are using me for some kind of financial gain. I'm a severe victim of crimes, and apparently they know the true settlement money. And I want an entire investigation. These police officers, these females, are impersonating male police officers. A female can't break into my apartment and commit sexual acts, etc., steal from me, steal settlement money, go buy homes in Kern County, buy homes in San Bernardino County. That's my settlement money, and then call me some kind of disability person. I want a full investigation of Police Station 251 East 6th Street, zip code 914. Those female police officers are mimicking male police officers. I don't know them, but apparently they've done their background investigation and they know me to be a severe victim of crimes. Rape in the sleep. They know that Barack Obama and Bill Clinton, the history of men coming to California and taking advantage of a Christian black woman because I was a virgin in my 30s. Now, something needs to be done about the 251 East 6th Street Police Station, zip code 914. Those Spanish female police officers cannot commit the crimes that they're committing against me without the authority of the watch commander and the police chief. That cannot take place. Stealing my settlement money, that cannot take place. They've investigated me, so they know that I'm owed settlement money. And I want you to know that my lawsuit, Kelly A. Clift versus Los Angeles District Attorney's Office, etc., all Third Amendment, lists prominent defendants who have all been served. However, because I did not have legal representation when the lawsuit was filed, I'm on appeal, and I've appealed it 2 or 3 times. So now, the year 2025, may Jesus Christ bless me with good legal counsel that will not sell me out like accountants and Johnny Depp's, the actor's accountant, sold me out. They lied on me in person, said that they would not accept my case, would not investigate stolen money, and they did act as my accountants. And I just want to remind you that William Bratton, police chief, has passed me on to Princess Diana, King Charles's sons before marriage, rape in the sleep. Now they have children, and the children are running around talking about mental illness. I have a lawsuit against their children. do something about 251 East 6th Street Police Station, zip code 914. I don't like being passed around, police chief. This has got to stop.
Ma'am, thank you very much. Those two officers at the rear are waiting to take your information. Thank you.
The next speaker is Megan.
Rasha, I just need to point out again that, like, you endlessly offer condolences for dead cops, and you never offer a condolence for anybody that the cops shoot. And it's really fucking heartless, and it's really clear whose lives you value and whose lives you don't. At the last meeting, you ruled on the murder of Jason McConney. To refresh everybody's memory, Jason McConney was experiencing a severe bipolar episode when Officer Caleb Garcia Alamia shot him at close range. Even as officers were physically apprehending Jason already, Officer Garcia Alamia was brand new and still on probationary status and was fresh out of the LAPD training, which programmed him to do exactly what he did. So you did rule that murder out of policy. I started wondering what the statistics were. How often are you shooting people in mental health crises? How often are those people carrying no weapon? And how often do you rule those shootings out of policy? What actually happens to the officers who commit out of policy shootings? So I go looking for stats on that. They're not easily accessible, which should surprise nobody. But I did find an article from the LA Times where they reviewed LAPD records from 2018 to 2023, examining over 200 cases in which officers fired at civilians. And they also reviewed hours of body camera video, search warrant affidavits, civil lawsuits. Okay, so behavioral crises involving edged weapons accounted for about 27% of police shootings. Mind you, an edged weapon in this case counts as a plastic fork. So that accounted for 27% of your shootings between 2018 and 2023. The officers who fired their weapons had an average of 9 years experience. Shootings of people who had sharp objects, not necessarily weapons, were more likely to end with someone being killed than were confrontations involving suspects armed with guns. Okay? So it seems like that officer did exactly what you trained him to do, which is why your out-of-policy ruling on Jason McConney is completely fucking symbolic. Caleb will way more than likely, not lose his job for that. And the reason why we know that actually is a report that you published, Django. A couple years ago, you issued a report called Discipline Resulting from Out-of-Policy Officer-Involved Shootings 2015 to 2020. It examined 45 cases during that time span, which involved 66 officers firing their weapons against department guidelines, which are bullshit to begin with. The report found that in those cases, the officers fired 301 rounds, and 228 of those shots were out of policy. Should not surprise you that 42 out of the 54 victims were black or Hispanic. 42 out of 54. 20 of those people died. How many LAPD officers were fired? 1.
Thank you.
The next speaker, go Puppet.
Yes, and a happy bad year. Yes, that's right. So we're doing a little bit of an expose. It appears Rasha got a big award in the Attorneys of the Year in 2024, and apparently represented some clients involving an antitrust violation. Is that right? Is that what you did? See, she works for a big law firm apparently, and takes great credit and great pleasure, but the way that I see it, Rasha, I'm just wondering if there were any, did you uncover any crimes, or are you covering that up by attorney-client privilege? So your client had to pay $50 million to settle the little boo-boo. You see, when you buy gas in California, the price gets a little rigged, and Rasha defended the bad guys. Right, Rasha? So you should take credit. Let's give her a hand. Yeah, that's good. Huh? So as you see, 1 compromised and 3 more to go, right? Now, the reason that Jim's numbers are down on burglaries, I witnessed a burglar of a vehicle at 844 South Hoover Street Thursday night, and I called the police department. An hour and 14 minutes on hold, Jim. They wouldn't come out and take a report because I am a puppet and I don't drive and I'm not the owner of the vehicle. Even though the burglar is homeless down the street, they've burglarized 7 other vehicles in the area in the last 64 days, Jim. And also, the assailant left his cell phone in the back seat, Jim, but your officers wouldn't come out and retrieve the evidence to make the arrest. So you see, Russia, that's why his statistics are so much lower, because they put you on hold for non-emergency services. 877 Ask LAPD Russia takes an average of 45 minutes to an hour and 17 minutes just to get the officer on hold. So most people hang up, Russia. And that's why those crimes don't get reported, Russia. That's why they're down, because it's done by design. Right, Your Honor? Over there, the judge? Isn't that conspiracy under color of authority, Your Honor? See, that's the problem. I told Jim McDonald, by the way, I think he's a good guy underneath it all, not to take this job, that you'd be spending all that time covering up all those dirty crimes, Jim. You're covering up, Jim. So we will say a prayer for Jim McDonald to come back to the side of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, go to the FBI, and turn over all those files, Jim, and take the retirement and the drop payment, and you will be the biggest whistleblower in American history. Thank you.
That is our last speaker, Mr. President.
Thank you. We'll now move on to agenda item number 3, consent agenda items. We have items 3A through N. Are there any comments or questions, Vice President Shields?
None for me, thank you.
Thank you. Any comments or questions, Commissioner Sanchez-Gordon?
None at this time.
Thank you. Having heard that, I move that we adopt the recommendation for board action on items 3A through N. Is there a second?
I second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much. The commission will now recess into closed session. Thank you.
The Board of Police Commissioners will now recess into closed session to discuss items number 4A, 4B, and 4C in accordance with Government Code 54957.
The commission has concluded closed session. We'll have a report out by Executive Director Sibley. Mr. Sibley.
Thank you, Mr. President. Beginning with item 4A. Item 4A1, as mentioned by the President at the beginning of the meeting, will be rescheduled for a future Police Commission meeting. Item 4A2, officer-involved shooting 007-24. During the closed session, the board made the following findings by a 3-0 vote. For tactics, tactical debrief, 1 police officer 3 and 1 police officer 1. For drawing and exhibition of a firearm, in policy, no further action, 1 police officer 3 and 1 police officer 1. And for lethal use of force, in policy, no further action, 1 police officer 3. For item 4B1, the matter was discussed, and for item 4C1, the matter was discussed, and that concludes the report out, Mr. President.
Thank you. I make a motion that the meeting be adjourned. Is there a second?
I second.
The motion has been made and seconded. Is anyone, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you very much.